present about the FDI determinants inflow into Thailand. Now we will introducing you the FDI first and continue with the group idea and objective. Let's see.
Foreign direct investment, popularly known by its acronym FDI, is a key component in global economic integration. FDI is a form of cross-border investment with the objective of establishing a lasting interest that a resident enterprise based in one country might have in an enterprise operating in another country. Lasting interest implies a significant degree of influence on the management of the enterprise, along with building up a long-term rapport between the direct investor and the direct investment enterprise. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, ownership of 10% of the voting power by the foreign investor is evidence of such a relationship. FDIs can be achieved by one of two strategies. The first strategy is for the company to set up new factories and plants from the ground up. This method is called a greenfield investment. Companies like McDonald's and Starbucks tend to use the greenfield approach when expanding overseas. The second FDI strategy is through cross-border mergers and acquisitions that involve acquiring an existing foreign enterprise in the country of interest. This method is called a brownfield investment. An example of a brownfield investment occurred in 2008 when the Indian truck company Tata Motors acquired Land Rover and Jaguar from Ford. Tata Motors didn't have to build those factories from scratch. FDIs can also be classified into horizontal and vertical forms. A company investing in the same business abroad that it operates domestically is a case of a horizontal FDI. On the other hand, vertical FDI occurs if a company invests in a business that plays the role of a supplier or a distributor. FDIs are seen as a healthy way for less developed and developing nations to overcome their saving investment gap, which limits the level of domestic investment. FDIs fill such gaps by bringing foreign investment into the country, as well as bridging gaps in management, technology, entrepreneurship, and skills.
We see in the video. FDI will play a significant role in developing countries. Thailand is one of developing countries, which is one of the 5 most FDI inflow countries in ASEAN. And when AEC is opened, FDI may become an important factor to develop country in the future. Therefore, we have to know what the factors that investors consider to invest, what is the incentive and opportunities that attract investor decisions to come and set up the industry in Thailand. We combine and construct the model to answer these questions. The determinants of foreign direct investment inflow into Thailand. Let's see the previous paper related to FDI.
From the part of literature review, we have divided study by each variable of that researches. First variable is economic side. The effect of GDP on FDI has been examined by several research. According to the gravity model for FDI by Farid 2007, which said that home and host country GDP affect foreign real affiliate sales positively. So GDP would affect foreign multinational firms as GDP is relatively high, lead to the higher FDI flow. And Watson 2012 had examined evidence of FDI flow between OECD and CARICOM countries. From the evidence analysis, it showed that the countries with have high GDP are more likely to be the investor and are more likely to invest in the country with higher GDP. For the second variable is distance. Again, according to gravity model Farid 2007 and Watson 2012 has shown that distance had negative and strongly significant effect to FDI. As higher distance mean that the countries are far away, it would reduce the multinational firms. Taramo said that the elasticity of FDI flow with respect to this trend is negative. Most of the studies have concluded that this trend has strongly negative and significant with FDI flow. This trend is one of the obstacles of FDI flow, but Microsoft also concluded that the country with greater availability of internet can reduce the geographical distance. In the other way, it said that the number of internet users increase and promote inward FDI. Next variable is inflation. Markov 2015 have found that inflation is negative and statistically significant in home countries, but insignificant in host countries. An increase in price index and in the demand implies that investors can increase investment abroad with lower inflation rate to maintain price competitiveness. Thus, high inflation rate in home countries would reduce FDI. Space 2005 denote that higher inflation would decrease FDI flow in developing countries. Next variable is exchange rate. NISA has indicated that exchange rate is significant and positive impact on FDI inflow, thus suggesting that an appreciation of currency encourages FDI inflow in Norway. Catherine Nairus have examined the endogenous of the exchange rate as a determinant of FDI, imply that exchange rate will impact the multinational enterprise decision to enter a market, but whether it encourages or deters firms contemplating direct investment depends on whether the shock originates in the company-owned native countries or overseas in the host market. The variable taxation. Brunegen 2005 implied that multinational enterprises face tax rate at a variety of levels in both the host and home countries, and policy to deal with double taxation can substantially alter the effect of this tax on a multinational enterprise incentive to invest. So, taxation would affect the investor decision on direct investment. Taramo examined the result which suggests that countries with higher corporate income tax experience both net inflow of FDI and a decline in corporate income tax revenue. For the conclusion, taxation has negative effect to FDI flow. Next variable is trade openness. Watson 2012 denote that trade is positive relationship with FDI, indicating that foreign firms are willing to invest in domestic market not because of increasing tariff costs, but because of the ease in investing in countries with which they are active trading partners. Furthermore, Taramo Malaysia have indicated that the greater openness of foreign investor and efficient investor protection facilitate the greater access to foreign direct investment flow. Lastly, the variable is human capital. Markov said that foreign investors assess the educational level of human capital in the host country to ensure the successful implementation of multinational firms. Hence, a higher tertiary enrollment increases FDI in the host countries, and the opportunity to address economic of scale and high protection efficiency reduce the marginal cost of production, which can lead to a greater market share. Asidu examine the effect of human capital in form of education which have a positive relationship to FDI flow.
Empirical model. We use gravity model to study the determinant of foreign direct investment. The simple form of the gravity model of bilateral trade are above, where Fij represents foreign direct investment flow from host to home country. T denotes time and A is constant. Yi represent host GDP, Yj represent home GDP, and Dij represent distance between those two countries. Next is the part of model and methodology. We use economic size and distance according to gravity model as control variable. And we also add some target variable based on previous research. T-model separate by using different types of FDI, which are FDI submitted by BOI. Next, FDI approved by BOI. And the last is FDI from Bank of Thailand. And for the data cover period 2005 to 2013, including 15 countries and 2 regions union. We estimate by using ordinary least square, including one distribution time lag. Since we suspect that these 3 models might have a problem of heteroscedasticity, so we use wide cross-section standard error to solve this problem. This table shows the definition of different types of FDI. First is total foreign direct investment submitted by BOI in million baht. Second is total foreign direct investment approved by BOI in million baht. And the last is total foreign investment flow to Thailand by countries from Bank of Thailand in million baht. For control variable, we expect that GDP of Thailand and GDP of home country will have positive sign. GDP per capita of Thailand and GDP per capita of home country will have positive sign. Total population of Thailand and home country will have positive sign. Distance between Thailand and home country will have positive sign. For target variable, we expect that inflation rate of Thailand per annum will have positive sign. Inflation rate of home country per annum will have negative sign. Household consumption expenditure of Thailand and home country as percent of GDP will have positive sign. Total unemployment of Thailand and home countries as percent of total labor force will have negative sign. Total government expenditure on education as percent of GDP will have both positive and negative sign. Exchange rate of home country per Thai baht and per dollar will have positive sign. Coverage income tax in Thailand and in home country will have negative sign. And trade openness in Thailand and home countries as percent of GDP will have positive sign. From our estimation in table above, we have found that the last variable that have strongly statistically significant in RT models. Furthermore, the blue variable are statistically significant only to RT models. And for the last, the green variable are statistically significant only in model 3. The rest of variables are insignificant in all models.
Conclusion: FDI is one of the most important to develop the country. More FDI can direct the capital inflow to the country and resulting in transferring capital, technology, and new way of production. It can help to stimulate growth and development. The more FDI inflow, the more growth occurs. So after we done, we can come back to our objective. As we expect, GDP and distance show significant on explaining FDI following the gravity model. In addition, we found many variables can expand FDI as well, such as trade openness, education, and corporate income tax. Because of limited data that we use, some variables show significant but in the wrong side as we expect or as economic logic. We have data only 9 years and the country that we study is quite small, only 15 countries and 2 regions from 245 countries around the world. Finally, our group seeing the opportunity for develop this model for future research. Because of our limitation, we cannot see the vivid picture of the whole FDI occur. To seeing bigger picture, we have to combine more variables such as interest rate difference between home and host country, real effective exchange rate, and many of variables that we miss, including more data and observation both various countries and years from more host to reality. We also add outflow part. Our group study only inflow and only in Thailand. Adding FDI outflow can capture more statistical evidence